Hello and welcome to Close the Gap. This is where we're talking about how we close the gap between where it is that we want to be and where we are now. And we are doing it in a way that we start with ourselves and our identities. So the weekly Close the Gap call recording is very much centered around identity shifts and changing who we are with the purpose of creating something that's bigger, both within and externally, than we have right now. And there's one thing that I really want to get into today is because I always hear people say things like, I wish I could do that, or I can't do this thing that I want to do, or this is just not for me. But they are putting a wedge in between what they have now, who they are now, and what they want to have or who they want to be. And I just really want to target that today because I've seen it happening for all sorts of different types of people in all sorts of different types of circumstances. And it seems like whoever we are in whatever area we have success, there is another area where we're not successful, which is common, right? This is very normal. You might be extremely successful in business, but not very successful in establishing personal boundaries, establishing standards, having good relationships, being healthy. Maybe you don't know how to get, it's very common, sleep, lack of sleep, right? If you have a very successful business, I know a lot of really successful people who just don't get sleep, who don't prioritize their health. And they will say things like, I wish I could. I'm like, but we have this idea that people who are able to achieve really big success in business or career, that they're able to apply that to all other areas of life. But this is not how it is. At least not without intentionality. I've also seen it in people who are incredibly successful in fitness, right? Where they're able to really apply themselves in fitness and build really strong discipline and able to get incredible results on an elite level, but then they don't know how to apply that to business or relationships or other areas in life. So it doesn't really matter who I talk to. I almost always hear the sentence, oh, I wish I could do that. Oh, I can't do that. Oh, and they disassociate the results that they want with the person that they are. And the reason I want to target that is because if you can visualize it, you can achieve it. If someone else has done it, you can do it. And this is the case with very, very, very few exceptions. I mean, we see absolutely insane accomplishments by some people, right? You can become an elite swimmer without having any arms. Completely ridiculous what people are able to do once they set their mind to it. And the reason that I want to talk about it is because you are putting an energy out there that there's something that you can't do when you use those words, I wish I could, or I can't. I'd rather that you start saying things like, I don't prioritize, or this is just not important enough for me to be dedicated to it. And when you do that, you realize that it's a decision. You could if you really wanted to. If you really wanted to put in the effort, you can do it. So that means that whatever it is that you want to achieve, with enough consistency, with enough effort, with enough work, both internally and externally, you're able to achieve the results that you want to achieve. And you will always be, if you look around in the world, you will always be able to find someone who had the same limitations in terms of access or network or whatever it is that's currently stopping you. You have the same, someone else with your limitations achieved great success in whatever area you're saying that you can't right now. I hear it very often when people say to me, they're like, oh, I wish I could give up alcohol, or I wish I could go vegan, something like that, where it's like, but it's so simple. It is so simple. You literally just don't do it. Like, you just, if there's alcohol in front of you, you just don't put it in your mouth. Like, it's that simple, right? But it's not easy because when people say that, I wish I could give up alcohol, they actually don't. They don't wish that. They don't want to have a life without alcohol, or they're not willing to put in the work to heal whatever it is that is craving that alcohol. Because trust me, if your body comes in with cravings and makes you do something that you have told yourself you don't want to do, there's something unhealed. There's something that you're refusing to see. There's a pain you're refusing to deal with. There's something very uncomfortable that you wish to not deal with. that is making you do things as a distraction to not achieve the goals that you've set out to do. It can also be that you have subconscious actions that are reinforcing behaviors or you're doing behaviors, you're engaging in activities that is just reinforcing the image that you have of yourself. So if you want to create a different life for yourself, what you start by doing is figuring out what is the person who would achieve, like who's the kind of person who would achieve this thing? How do they live their life? What is important to them? How do they spend their time? How do they get up in the morning? All of these different examples. You start really obsessing over who is this type of person, and then you just start living like that person. And you start showing up like that person, and you start seeing yourself and describing yourself as that person. As soon as you're using words like I can't or I wish I could, you're disempowering yourself. You're creating an image of yourself that is flawed. Not even flawed, we're all flawed. You're creating an image of yourself that is not able to achieve the things that you want to achieve. And if you have a view of yourself that there's something that you can't do, then you'll never do it, right? You'll never put in the effort to actually do the thing. So the first step here is really to figure out, why do I want this thing? Do I want this thing? If you say to yourself, I wish I could get more sleep. I wish that I could stop drinking alcohol. I wish that I could go to the gym 5 times per week. Do you really want that? Or do you have this idea that is success, but it's not actually the type of success that you want? For me, you can do whatever it is that you want to do. If you want to get drunk every single day, then we'll do that, if that's what you want to do. The thing is, we very often do things that we don't necessarily want to do. We very often engage in things that are a distraction, so we don't have to deal with actually recognizing and understanding ourselves and healing the wounds that we're carrying around, because it's too painful. So many people are not able to go home and just sit with themselves. They're not able to just sit down and not really do anything, just kind of listening to their own thoughts and just be. So many people feel uncomfortable in their own company. And the reason that is that there's something within you that you haven't figured out. There's something within you that you're uncomfortable with. There's something in you that is left unhealed. There's something that kind of starts shouting at you from within when you're sitting there by yourself. And that is why people engage in distractions. That is when Netflix gets put on. As soon as you come home, there's like distraction. It is when you go out and you drink with people because that distracts you, or whatever it is that you do that makes you not listen to yourself. Those are distractions. When you engage in distractions, you can't really get to know yourself, and you can't really get to heal everything that is in here that is currently uncomfortable because you refuse to look at it. And sometimes we don't even know that that's what we're doing. I didn't know that was what I was doing at all. I had no idea what I was doing. I had no idea how my behaviors that were getting in the way of me achieving the goals that I wanted to achieve was subconscious patterns. I had no idea that it stemmed from a lot of unhealed wounds. It's also when you get into pretty much anything that we do which creates a life. I'm really sorry, Milo, he's barking in the background. Someone is bothering him outside. What was I trying to say? Whenever we feel like we need to create a life that is not joyful, that is not restful, that is not comfortable, then that is an indication that we are looking to self-punish. And by comfortable, I don't mean full of distraction and just like lying down and doing nothing all day, but the feeling of like feeling good about yourself, really feeling good about serving at a high level, digging into your purpose, about doing things that you love. If you're under the idea, if you've kind of submitted to the idea that life needs to be really hard in order to get successful, life needs to be really uncomfortable. And with the word comfort, it's tricky, right? Because sometimes we do need to push ourselves outside of our comfort to grow. So it's not to say that we just need to cushion ourselves up and not do things that challenge us, but it's like it doesn't have to be extremely uncomfortable either. We get to choose where is it that we want to grow right now, what is it that we want to focus on, and then we start pushing our boundaries here so that we can expand ourselves. But if you have this idea that you just need to live in constant discomfort, then that is an indication that you're trying to self-punish. If you're all about like all of my fitness is like I need to punish myself every single day and never give my body rest and always be like pushing, that is an indication of really punishing yourself. Like really even use the words, I'm gonna go punish myself in the gym, right? So what is it? What is this idea that you have of yourself that creates this feeling that you need to be punished? It's about the way that we eat. So many people, they don't allow themselves to eat. That is an indication of self-punishment. And whenever you're doing things because you're subconsciously trying to punish yourself, then it's really hard to live a life that is expansive, that is abundant, that is joyful. So if you walk around with this idea that you need to be punished for whatever reason, there's something in you that hasn't been healed. There's an idea that has been planted about you in your head that is not accurate. Because whatever it is, whoever we are, so many of us, we feel like we're not good enough. And when we feel like we're not good enough, or maybe we've done things we're not proud of, and we walk around with this idea that we are not worthy or that we need to be punished subconsciously. It's not an idea that we walk around like, I need to punish myself. Well, some do. But if you have this tendency to do things to you that is just not very loving or kind and compassionate, it is not a way that you would treat or talk to people that you love, then that means that you have something in you that needs processing. And sometimes we know what that is. And sometimes we have this idea, the reason I don't feel good enough is because, my dad told me this when I was a kid, or my mom acted like this when I was a kid, or whatever that is. And then we can use that as an excuse for not feeling good enough. And then we can live a life where we don't show up as our best selves because we inside have this feeling that we're not good enough. But we're not able to show up as our best and most beautiful and most incredible selves if we walk around and give into this idea of not feeling good enough. We're not able to serve on our highest levels if we feel like we're not good enough. We're not able to talk to our people and to our community in a way that they can engage with us if we feel like we're not good enough. So this can be that maybe you've achieved quite a lot of success not feeling good enough, but what is keeping you from jumping up to the next level and actually live a life that is full of joy and expansion and abundance, not just in terms of money, but in terms of time, in terms of relationship, in terms of health, is that you carry around this idea about what you're deserving. And some of us, we have different areas in which we see deservingness, and where do we feel like we can achieve this? So we run with this, and then we just push ourselves. So that can be in business, it can be in health, it can be in these different areas of life where we're like pushing and pushing and pushing, and we achieve these results and we're fighting for it. And then we achieve this level of success. But then we start looking around at the other life areas and we're like, why am I not achieving the things that I want in these different areas? And the thing is, if we walk around with this idea that we're not good enough for good things, we are going to be not able to achieve those results that we want in the other areas of life. Because there is this idea that we don't deserve it, or there is this idea that I can only achieve success in this if I sacrifice all of these other things. So what is it? That idea has been planted through this feeling of not feeling worthy, not feeling good enough, not feeling like you deserve all of these incredible things, or it's been planted by a whole generation of people who's telling you can't have it all. But what if you can have it all? If you can see it, you can have it, right? I know people who have 8-figure businesses that work part-time. you know, because they've set up systems around themselves where they can just, and they, you know, they practice their health, they practice their relationships, they practice all of these things because they live from a full perspective and view of deservedness. And they know that in order to fully serve in any area, I need to replenish all of these areas. So if you're sitting with this feeling of not being good enough, there's something unhealed. Now, we can either spend a lot of time and energy figuring out where does this feeling of undeservedness come from, or we can make the decision to just say, I'm going to practice being and living as the person who's completely good enough. And I'm going to replace all of the thoughts and the belief systems that I have around not feeling good enough. And I'm going to step into this person that I've seen. I know that they exist and I know that they're right. We are so deserving and we serve at a much higher level when we fulfill all of these other areas. And that's who I'm going to be. And then you start stepping into that person without necessarily having to figure out where does this pain that I'm having come from. Now, if you're relatively new in personal development, it is really useful to figure out where does it come from, simply because now it makes sense. Like, you see your own programming when you start digging into this. This happened, which created this belief. And that's why I think this is the case. I wasn't born with this belief. This belief doesn't actually have anything to do with my inherent value. So it's not to say that you shouldn't do the work at all. I'm saying that if you've already done that work many times, you don't always need to complete that part saying, oh, this is what it is. You just start stepping into the person who is the next level. And the more you step into that person, the more that person will be and feel like you. So I am going to let you all go. Thank you so much for today. And if you have any questions, any comments, or any suggestions for future topics, if you want anything elaborated, please let me know in the comments or send me a message. I would love to hear from you. Have a beautiful day.